So we're here at Wizard World in Austin, and we're here with the legendary animator Tom Cook. I can't even begin to list all the credits, but you can see from everything that's been done here. If you grew up in the 80s, this man is your childhood pretty much. Tom, how are you doing out here?
Very good. This has been a lot of fun. I love coming to Austin.
All right. Well, let me ask you, in regards to all of this content, if you looking back on it all now, what do you think the biggest change for you was doing some of these shows? Was there ever a day where you said, all right, guys, here's how we're going to do this now, as opposed to something different before?
You know, much of my career was all done with the hand-drawn, so we really didn't have big, huge changes. I can remember we did BraveStar, and we were able to use a computer to do wireframes for the vehicles that they were going to be in, because it's hard to draw a vehicle because it's so rigid, and that helped. But really it wasn't until the 90s, and I was almost out of the business when the computers started coming in, and I ended up working at Microsoft and learning 3D animation and everything in the early 90s when they first came up with soft image. But never really worked as an animator again. I was training people how to do video games.
Oh, okay. Video games. Which games in particular?
Well, no particular game. It was just there would be a game company that had some program that they wanted to use, and they had a bunch of kids that knew how to use the program, but they didn't know how to make something move realistically.
Oh, okay.
So I would go in. I didn't know how to use a computer as good as they did, but they couldn't animate like I could. So we kind of meshed, and so we get them so they were a little bit better at what they were doing.
Well, the best of both worlds, kind of sharing off of each other. Well, now, this is the tough question. It'll get easier from here, I promise. Out of all these shows, out of all these series spanning decades, you have a favorite, one that you really enjoyed working on.
And you wonder why I knew that was coming. Right here, Thundarr the Barbarian.
That's the one.
That's the one I like the best. Jack Kirby was the creator of the show, one of the co-creators. I got to meet Jack Kirby, who was my hero. It was a great show. It was designed by Jack Kirby. So, I mean, it was just the best show for that type of a Saturday morning show that you could possibly get.
It has Jack's fingerprints just all over it. I mean, that's incredible.
And I always say, if you saw Thundarr, it was your favorite show. Because it was really, 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 really different than all the other stuff on TV. In fact, I can't believe some of the stuff they were allowed to get away with.
You mean an example, something that just really surprised you?
Just having the world ended, and you've got sorcery versus barbarians, and it's just stuff like that in his sun sword.
Right.
You know, and you could just do a little bit more with the show than you could with He-Man, because He-Man, they could never hit swords.
Really?
Yeah, Skeletor and He-Man never. He-Man would shoot his sword off screen, you'd hear something explode, and then they'd pan over and it'd be smoking.
You know, I never thought about that before. Yeah, they never... Okay, all right, my mind's blown now. They never actually clashed swords. Oh, okay. Wow, I'm taking a step back. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. Now let's come a little more into the present. So they're talking about making a live-action Jetsons series. Oh. They're remaking Thundercats. They're remaking She-Ra. She-Ra's coming back out. A lot of remakes are starting to come back. What are your thoughts on all these remakes, reboots, whatevers?
My thought is that every time they try to reboot something, you've got millions of fans just waiting to see it. Why do you change it 90% from what they love and make it into something that everybody just goes, I don't like that? I mean, the She-Ra, it doesn't look good. I saw one picture of She-Ra, and it's like anime. It doesn't look anything like our character.
And to be fair, it's now being called She-Ra the Princesses of Power. There will now be multiples of them.
Yeah, and, you know, maybe the stories will be better, I hope, but normally they just don't follow what all the fans loved about the first show, so they lose their viewership just because it's so different. And like I said, it looks like she's like even younger, like it's a younger version.
A 12-year-old.
Yeah. And she just doesn't look like she looks in our cartoon at all, you know.
Alrighty, well, we're here with Tom Cook. I mean, it's an honor to speak to you. It really is, because I grew up with a lot of this here. So I still sing the BraveStar theme song and watch Roger Rabbit and Simpsons and everything else. So let me leave you with a fun question. I always like to end these with a fun question. How long could Hank Hill stand being locked in a room with Homer Simpson?
I think he would kill him. I don't think he'd last very long.
A few minutes, maybe.
You talk about the boy ain't being right. This man's crazy.
I tell you what.
Yeah, I don't. And Homer, I just don't. He's so not bright.
Yeah.
I think Hank was a very intelligent guy, even though he was a Texas boy.
Well,
But I love Texas boys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Woo.
Well, you talk like that and everybody thinks you're stupid, but it doesn't mean you're stupid just because you have an accent.
True. Very true. I did say that my last question, but then one popped into my head. So here we go. This is the absolute final one. So the DC Universe app is officially out, and it is content piled upon content upon content upon content. But tucked in there, is the Superfriends series, which can now be introduced to millions of new people who are going to subscribe to this app. What are your thoughts on having another generation experience the Superfriends series again?
Well, I hope they do, and I hope they like it. For me, back in that day, what I didn't like about it was we didn't have comic book writers writing the show. So it wasn't quite like the comic book. And I, being a comic book fan, I wanted it to be like the comic book. So, and it was, of course, geared for younger kids than me. So it was always going to be a little bit below what I wanted to see in an action show. But it still had such iconic characters and so well designed by Alex Toth. And I just hope that the younger crowd can get into it and see what we saw in it, that it was a really fun show.
Outstanding. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Tom. I want to thank you for taking the time out to talk to us here. We're here at Freedom 1160 AM Talk Radio and Get Your Geek On. We've got more pics, more vids, more interviews. It's all on the Facebook page, YouTube. It's everywhere, and we'll have more, so keep checking our page.